Welcome to Cheapy Joe's workshop, the man who sees potential where everyone else sees. A junkyard. So today, DIYers, he's going to transform a crappy bedside table. Into what, you ask? Into a super stylish minibar, no less. Actually, he just had a vision while turning it upside down, feet up, and then, bam! Divine inspiration. All he used was a bit of salvage, 3 crooked screws, 2 pieces of wood, and, above all, a lot of faith to hope it would work. So why buy a $200 bar when you can turn a piece of furniture upside down and make it look like Scandinavian design? IKEA must be trembling in front of Cheapy Joe's. Cheapy Joe, the rare breed of wild tinkerer. Today, he takes on a feared creature, the rickety nightstand.
Welcome, DIY enthusiasts. Today I'm going to show you how I transformed this poor abandoned bedside table.
Okay, so we got the table off of our nightstand. We took the table off of it, and here's the big surprise. When I was looking at this, I was looking at it and I thought, you know what? I take the tabletop off. I put a couple of pieces of inlay, put it back on, and I'm through with the bill. I don't want to do that. I want to make it something really cool, something really special, something really different. So here's what I did. I got the bottom cut out for the table, and it fits on there quite nicely, just like that. I'll add screws to it, and that there will be my bottom, and I have some decorative legs I'm going to put on it. You mean bottom? Bottom, that's the top. Cheapy Joe? Wait, here's the big surprise. Are you ready? What we're going to do with this nightstand is we're going to turn it over. Okay? Now, the bottom becomes the top, and the top becomes the bottom. So the first thing I did was I had to change the drawer because the drawer was upside down. So what I did was I had to rearrange the slides in the case. So I got that all fixed up so it would slide again. And then I had to put a nice little stop on the back of it so that when I put it in my slides, there, hold on just a minute. If I can get it in my slides. There we go. Oh, hold on. It stops and don't go all the way back to the back thing. So now I got this big hole with a drawer in the bottom of it. What I did is I built a nice piece of wood to fit on top of it. Now if you look at it, you gotta use your imagination here because it's not finished. And I used all the wood that I got off my old tables to help me make this. I used the cove bit to dress it up a little bit, and I cut it so it would fit around the legs. There you go. So now we got the bottom of it. Now I gotta work on the top. I gotta work on the tabletop. Well, here's the bottom of here's the underside of the tabletop, and here's what I did. Now if you look at this, you'll see that I have supports on what's one of the legs, which is now the top, that's going to help support the table. What I did was I used a nice cove bit and I trimmed them all the way around. I put 2 screws in them. Alright? And let's not forget our glue. Like the announcer says, never leave home without a pot of glue. Okay, now it's nice and strong, it ain't going to go nowhere. On the bottom of the table, what I did was I trimmed it out so that my supports would fit on here nicely, and I added an extra piece to it because if you look at this, you can see it. This piece of wood right here and the corner of this are not the same height. They're about, I don't know, 3-4 millimeters difference. Okay. So I had to trim them out so that when I turn my table over, The struts or the supports you won't be able to notice that. Okay? Now, what else I did was this. I made some stuff. I love stuff. I made some stuff for my tabletop. The first stuff I made is obviously I put a back place to fit here so that when it fits on the table, it looks like it goes all the way around the bottom of the table. The next thing I did is this. I used my straight bit and I made these. Okay, so I have one on one side, one on the other, and one on the mid and one in the middle. Okay, what is that? You turn them over like so, because I wanted you to see this. If you turn them over, okay, you can now slide wine glasses in there, and they'll hold the wine glasses once I attach them to the top of the table. What are you going to make? I'm going to make a nice little bar out of our little nightstand. So now, I started on, once again, now it's not completed, so you have to use a little imagination here. I got my top of my table started. What I did was I used a straight bit to make the large for the inlay on the outside, and then I used a smaller bit to do the inside, and I used a cove bit, like I did on the rest of it, to do the trim around the sides, so that when it's all put together, okay, it's going to look something like this. All right, voila. You step around from this side and you take a look at it. It looks a little different than it. Now you got to remember, we're going to have a wine rack out of here, and I got a really nice plan. I'm not going to tell you what it is because then you're going to go away and you're not going to come back. But I'll show you, and it's going to be really, really, really very, very nice little bar for an apartment or your home or outside in the patio. But you got to stay tuned and stick around to see the rest of it.
Tips and tricks.
Okay, this is a part of our segment of our show we call Tips and Tricks, which is some ideas, some tips, and some tricks that I come across that I think might help you in your woodworking. The first tip of the day is this. We have Dremel tools, okay? I have 2 of them, all right? If a tool makes it into my shop, I guarantee you, when we field test it, it gets worked hard. So, we have a sander on this one. If you look at it, it has a sander, and the sanders that it comes with have sticky on the back side when you put it on the thing, and it sands the wood for you. Okay. All right. Now, Cheapy Joe is Cheapy Joe. Okay, and our little shop, you can see how big it is. It reminds me of a commercial I saw where the guy's going fishing. He puts this $20,000 bass boat in the water with a $20,000 Dodge Turbo Cummins diesel truck, and he goes fishing. And a little kid comes up on the dock with his little bobber in his pocket and his little fishing pole, and he sits on the dock. At the end of the video, or at the end of the show, the fisherman in the big boat pulls away, no fish in his pot. But the little boy, he pulls up a stringer, and he has a big stringer of fish. Same here. Little shop, big stuff. All right, now, what I do is I take my sandpaper, and I have this little tracer, and I take the sandpaper and I trace it out. I poke a hole in it, and I stick it to my Dremel. So now, there you go. I have a nice little sander, little sand in the curves around the corners, as opposed to this. And it's 300 times cheaper than this, I guarantee you, because I can buy I don't know how many feet of sandpaper for $2 or $3. Now, Dremel is a great idea. All right, I use mine a lot. It comes with your accessories. You can cut wood, you can cut metal, you can grind on glass. So I highly recommend that you get one of these little tools in your shop if you don't already have one. Now, there's a show back in the States when I was younger. It's called Tim the Tool Man. And Tim the Tool Man was our kind of guy, a man's man. And in his garage, he had a lawnmower, a riding lawnmower. And when he opened up the garage, He opened it up. It looked like a dragster coming out of the shop, okay? I mean, it was incredible what he did. Well, I don't have a dragster, I don't have a lawn, but here's what I do have. Now, my wife had it was called a Cuisinart. And this is what a Cuisinart is. It takes and it beats your eggs, or it'll cut your, it's a food, kind of a food processor. Well, it broke. The little plastic deal that sits in here, that sits on the motor, broke, and it didn't work anymore. And I kept thinking about it. I go, man, there's that motor sitting down there. I could use it for something, I'm sure. So what I did was this. I took and I drilled a hole through the plastic that was there. I put a bolt in it with nuts on two sides of it so I could attach a piece of sandpaper. And now I have a sander, that will peel the paint off of any piece of wood. So, Tim the Tool Man, step aside. Here comes Cheapy Joe.
The moment when everything changes, when the piece of furniture becomes a work of art. Well, almost.
Okay, before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about terminology. There's a couple things I'd like to mention. The first thing is, what is a dado? So, this is a dado. All right? It's where the router came in, a piece of wood, and cut a dado. This L-looking bracket-looking thing is called a rabbet. So when I say a rabbet or a dado, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I don't know exactly what they call them in the real world, but what I call this, okay, like this inlay on the top, I'm going to call that a surface treatment. On the sides, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call that an edge treatment. All right, so let's start at the bottom. What I did was I took two pieces of block, two pieces of wood, cut them in a square, glued them together. Then I put an edge treatment around them. Then I took two more and I glued them together, and I put an edge treatment around them. I glued them all together, turned them over, drilled a hole in them, and then I was able to make legs out of them. Then I highlighted where I put the edge treatment on. On the door, what I did I did an edge treatment as well. Okay, I used a dado. I used a number 6 straight bit router and routed it on my table, and then I made the inlay. Now all the inlay that you see here, I made. I didn't purchase, I didn't buy. I cut on my table. I used my dials to get the exact size to cut. Now, on the first table here, I don't have anything attached because I want to show this to you. All right. If you look at it, what I did was, on the outside of this, I did pretty much the same thing. I cut dados in a piece of wood. I put edge treatments on them. I glued them to the supports. All right. I glued them, and then what I did was I put an edge treatment with my cove bit, on it. You see? All right. On my router. And then I turned it over, I drilled holes in the wood, and I put glue and screwed them to it. It's very sturdy, it's very stout. Now, with this one particular piece of wood, I didn't match the top table. I have two big ones, actually. There's a reason for it, and that was because I made a mistake. I had a little accident with the router table. Once again, I forgot to tighten the bolt, and it was all over everywhere. So I couldn't use my nice little inlay on the top to go on the side, so because you can't cover up a hole with a router. So the only thing I could do to fix that, don't tell anybody, but you can't even tell. Okay? Then on the sides, if you look at this, what I did is I put a bracket, a support bracket on this one. It's built the same way as the top is, the dados, the supports. Okay? Now if you look at this here, it's very, very small, and these dados are very, very hard to work with when they're small on the router table. So I had to make a jig so that I could actually cut those dados in that, because you can't hold this and cut it with the router as well. I put a bracket on it, and then I screwed it on the inside. If you come over here, you can barely see where the screws are at, because my slides for my drawer are there. Because like I said, I had to make the slides for the drawer so the drawer would open up. And I also put a stop on the back of the drawer like I explained earlier. On the top of this, I took and I cut potatoes once again. Well, these are actually rabbits, excuse me. I cut rabbits on these to hold my wine glasses. I took strips of wood and I cut rabbits on them so they would hold my wine glasses. Okay? And then I glued them and screwed them to the top of the table piece. Now, if you look at this, what I did was, like I said, I don't have everything put together so I can show you this. All right? So there's how those look. And this back piece to match the sides. And now I need some supports to hold my table. So what I did is, once again, I took some wood. I used an edge treatment. My cove bit went all the way around them, turned them over, drilled holes in them, and matched my legs. So now I have my tabletop we put together, and it'll match just perfect. And I have my bottom, it matches perfectly as well. So that's how I designed this. I don't know, when I was in the process of putting this all together, I don't know what gave me the idea. I thought, let's turn the thing over and see what it looks like. Alrighty guys, you ready to go look at my upside down nightstand? Come on, let's go. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, the first time ever seen publicly anywhere in the world, Cheapy Joe's upside down nightstand. Drum roll, please. Here we go. I'm paying attention so we don't break nothing. And voila. There we go. It is truly, truly aperitif time. We turned our nightstand into a very, very nice little corner mini bar or a little bar. It has wine glasses that you can put on it. It has your cocktail drinks. It has your wine bottle holders on the side, on both sides. And it also has a nice drawer for all your accessories, wine openers, whatever you want to put in there, towels, whatever you want, spoons, knives, shakers, whatever you need. And on the top we have the table where you can have your cocktails. And so, the nightstand we paid at the old store, 10 euros. For the ceramic knob, our little ceramic knob, we paid 2 euros. Okay. Now it had a little piece on the back side of it, underneath it, but I couldn't use it because the screw was so small. I had to countersink it, and I couldn't fit a drill in here. So I just removed it, save it for another project. The stain. I have a great big pot of stain. Like I said, I paid $10, probably $1, $2 worth of stain. The wood I got from my old trusty piece of wood. I'm whittling away at that thing. I didn't have no cost at all. Total cost 14 euros. So for 14 euros, Cheapy Joe built you an upside down table. I hope that you've enjoyed our video. I hope that you learned something. I hope it's given you some ideas in your woodworking. Please like us, please share us, please comment, and please subscribe to our station. It helps us immensely. We hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned, and we'll be back shortly and soon with another video. So thank you once again for joining us here at Cheapy Joe's.
Well, the nightstand is now a mini bar. Just goes to show, anything is possible when you have wood, screws, and no carpentry skills. If you liked it, subscribe. If you didn't like it, subscribe anyway. I need some motivation.
Another idea from Cheapy Joe that I never thought would work. And yet, it's working. Well, for now. Thanks for following this epic DIY adventure. We'll see you soon for a new video with Cheapy Joe, where he'll try to transform something into something else, or a colander into a satellite dish. Just kidding. In the meantime, like, subscribe, and screw with passion.